what I've realized with a lot of employers is that they do employment, they actually have the employment contracts with the employees, but they never look at them. So you find the only time they pull out that employment contract from an employee's file or from a shelf is when something happens. For instance, recently I had a consultation with an employer whereby it was only after they had been served a demand letter is when I asked them, because when I looked at the demand letter, this employee was saying their contract was not fixed term. Then I asked the employer, please, what does the contract say? The employer was not aware, could not remember. And now, they pulled the employee's contract from the file, and they realized this employee had worked for over 5 years, and their contract had never been renewed in any way or reviewed. So when the employee joined the company in 2020, he had been given a 1-year contract, which was supposed to end in 2021. However, that was never and the employee was terminated in 2026. Nice, but the contract had never been either renewed, extended. And that's why in today's video, I want to share why every employer should review their employment contract. Okay, let's start with the basics. An employment contract states out the rights and obligations of both the employee and an employer. It's just not a document that you're supposed to just set it aside. Remember, it also stipulates what the remuneration, the probation, disciplinary procedures, issues like confidentiality. That's why it's a very key employment document under the Employment Act. And remember, it can either be oral or written. So for employers who normally avoid reducing it into writing, remember that court also looks at, like, court acknowledges oral. So that means court will look at surrounding circumstances to confirm if there's a contract between an employer and an employee. Think of an employment contract this way. It's something that no one looks at when nothing happens. But now when everything goes wrong, everyone is looking at it. The employee, the employer, the advocates, the court. So that's why it's very important to ensure that when someone pulls it out, it actually protects you. Reason number 1, business changes. You may find your business has changed over the years. So that's why you have to make sure that your contract reflects that. Sometimes you may have started maybe handling one area of an industry, but now you have expanded, or maybe you have even changed completely. So make sure that is reflected. Sometimes you have you started maybe mostly temporary employees, you're now moving to permanent employees. So that's why it's very important that your contract reflects that. And you may find also some employees are now working partly remotely, others are working maybe partly in the office, partly remotely. Any changes, any business changes, ensure that when you make any business changes, you ensure that's one of the reasons that you have to make sure you review your contracts. The other second reason why you should review your contract is, remember, law changes. Laws have kept changing. The best example I can give is, remember, under Section 42 of the Employment Act, probationary contracts you're not supposed to treat, you don't have to do the normal disciplinary process for the probationary contracts. But of course, a 3-judge bench has already found that to be unconstitutional. So that means that Section 42 is no longer effective. So that's why you have to make sure that such employment, this is just an example. So that's one of the reasons why you have to ensure you are reviewing your contracts. Another third reason you should ensure you are reviewing your contract is because some contracts are just basically incomplete. Most of the time when you're starting small. So you find most people have 1-page employment contract. So you've just maybe written job title, you have written maybe termination clause, so you've not included a lot of other things. For instance, they have said your industry has grown, maybe you need to bring in issue of confidentiality. You need to bring in like a lot of other factors that you have to bring in now that your business is growing, and now to protect yourself more now that the business has grown. So that's another reason you have to read, because you find a company that has been in operation for over 5 years, and now you find you're still using the contracts you started with in the first year, which was 1 page. Or maybe it doesn't have to be 1 page, it can be even 3 pages, but does not fully protected you. It does not incorporate everything that needs to protect you as an employer, and even the employees, for protection of all parties. And as I've said, remember, an issue comes up, everyone looks at the employment contract. So you have to make sure that that when that employment contract is pulled, it protects you. Let's talk important clauses. Now, does your employment contract have a confidentiality clause? Remember, remember your employers access your information. If in case your employer takes the information out there, has that contract protected you? There's also intellectual property. Remember, if an employee develops a software, brings training manual, creates anything that you're using as a company, does your contract protect you? Who owns it? This is something that's very important, because remember, if the contract is silent about it, your employee can take it, and maybe it's something that has helped your company is using. So that's why it's very important. And then there's data protection. Remember, the law requires an employer to protect employees' privacy, and so you have to make sure that in your contract that is also reflected. The issue of conflict of interest. Can your employee create a competing business with you? Those are things the contract should address. Can they take your employees? Can they hire your employees? When they leave the company, can they open a competing business next to you? Because if the contract is silent, an employee can just open a competing business next to you, and there's nothing you can do if the contract was silent about it. So those are very important clauses. Hence why reviewing your contract is very important. Then there is also job description. Employers forget to review this. Remember, businesses evolve. Employees get promotions. Their roles change. Make sure this is also reflected. Remember, when you go for poor performance for an employee, court will always look at the job description. So there's no way you'll be saying an employee is poorly performing, yet the job description you have is for their previous job. So ensure you also review the job description of the employee. You make sure, and so that's why you should make sure you are reviewing your contracts. Here are the common mistakes I see employers making. First is downloading contracts online through Google, ChatGPT. Please don't. Ensure, because remember, the contract is supposed to protect you. Another common thing is copying another company's contract. And you may find when the industries are totally different. Even if the industries are the same, remember, there's just something that differs between the two companies. There's the issue of context. So you have to make sure you don't copy a contract from another company. Another common mistake, as I've stated, failing to update contracts when someone has been promoted. Having poorly drafted contracts. Remember, a poorly drafted contract cannot protect you, because it's simply already poorly drafted, so there's no way that contract can protect you. So those are the common mistakes I normally see employers making. Employment contracts shouldn't just simply help you hire employees, it should help you manage risks. So if you have never reviewed your contract for over 12 months, please review your contracts. It will help you identify risks before they become an expensive venture. If you're an employer and you would want to have your contracts reviewed, we at Ruth Tanui Company Advocates, we help employers review contracts. You can reach out to us through our email info@ruthtanuiadvocates.co.ke.